Have you ever wondered what it truly means to leave everything behind and follow Jesus? Have you ever felt the pull of something greater calling you out of your comfort zone? Have you ever thought about what it must have been like to hear the voice of the Son of God saying, "Follow me"? In Matthew 4, verse 18 to 20, we encounter one of the most powerful and transforming moments in all of Scripture. The moment when Jesus calls two ordinary fishermen, Simon Peter and Andrew, to become fishers of men. This short passage captures the essence of the Gospel's call, simple yet world-changing, personal yet universal. It is a story about faith, obedience, and purpose. The setting is simple but profound. Jesus is walking by the Sea of Galilee, a place alive with the sounds of daily labor, the slap of waves against the shore, the creak of wooden boats, the rhythmic sound of nets being cast and drawn in. For Peter and Andrew, this was not a sacred space, but a workspace. It was where they lived, sweated, and survived. They were fishermen, not scholars, not priests, not nobles. They weren't waiting for greatness, they were working for their next meal. And yet, it was in the ordinary rhythm of their lives that the extraordinary call of God came. As Jesus walked by, he saw them casting their net into the lake, and he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Those words changed everything. Imagine that moment. A stranger walks by, speaks just one sentence, and something inside you awakens. It wasn't a command shouted across the water, it was an invitation whispered into their souls. They didn't just hear a voice, they felt authority, purpose, and love all wrapped in those two words, "Follow me." Matthew tells us they immediately left their nets and followed him. No hesitation, no questions, no calculations. They left the tools of their trade, the comfort of routine, and the security of the familiar, all to follow a man they barely knew. Why? What made them respond so radically? Because when Jesus calls, he doesn't appeal to logic, he awakens destiny. There's something divine in his call that stirs the heart beyond reason. Peter and Andrew didn't need a resume of miracles or a theological explanation. They recognized something eternal in his voice. "Follow me." Those two words became the foundation of their new identity. No longer fishermen, they would become fishers of men, seekers of souls, carriers of light, bringers of hope. Jesus wasn't just offering them a new job, he was offering them a new life. The beauty of this passage lies not only in who was called, but in how they were called. Jesus met them where they were, in their boat, doing what they knew best. He didn't demand they change before following. He promised to change them as they followed. "I will make you fishers of men." It wasn't an instant transformation, but a lifelong process of becoming. That's how God works. He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Peter and Andrew were ordinary men with ordinary flaws. Peter would struggle with fear, doubt, and pride. Andrew would often be overshadowed by his brother. But Jesus saw beyond their imperfections. He saw what they could become through his grace. He sees the same in you. When Jesus calls, he doesn't see what you are. He sees what you will be when you walk with him. You might see failure, but he sees faith. You might see weakness, but he sees potential. You might see yourself stuck in routine, but he sees a disciple in training. The call to follow Jesus is more than an invitation. It's a surrender. It's the willingness to lay down our nets, our comfort zones, ambitions, fears, and sins, and trust that his path leads to something greater. Those nets symbolize more than just work. They represent everything that holds us. For Peter and Andrew, the nets were security. For us, they might be control, reputation, relationships, or fear of change. But every disciple must come to that moment where the call of Jesus becomes louder than the pull of the world. And notice this, they didn't just walk away from something, they walked towards someone. Following Jesus isn't about abandoning life. It's about discovering real life. The Sea of Galilee would never be the same for Peter and Andrew. What was once their workplace became their training ground. Every wave, every catch, every storm would now carry spiritual meaning. They would soon learn that fishing for men required patience, faith, and perseverance. It would mean casting nets of truth into deep waters of brokenness and drawing people into the light of God's love. But the story doesn't end at the shore. That first "follow me" was only the beginning. Over the next 3 years, these two fishermen would witness miracles beyond imagination. Blind eyes opened, storms calmed, multitudes fed, and even the dead raised to life. Yet the greatest miracle of all would be what happened inside them. The same Peter who once caught fish would one day preach to thousands. The same Andrew who cast nets would bring others to Jesus, including his own brother. Their obedience at the water's edge became the spark that ignited the fire of the gospel across the world. And here's what's remarkable. The call of Jesus hasn't changed. He still walks along the shores of our lives, calling us by name, saying, "Follow me." He doesn't call you to a religion, but to a relationship. He doesn't ask you to become perfect before following him. He simply says, "Come, and I will make you." The process of following Jesus will always involve transformation. There will be seasons of uncertainty, times when obedience feels costly, and moments when the waves seem too strong. But every step behind him leads to deeper purpose. When Peter and Andrew followed, they didn't know where the path would lead. They only knew who they were following. That's the essence of discipleship, trusting the voice of the one who leads, even when you can't see the destination. Think about your own life for a moment. What nets are you holding on to? What's keeping you from fully saying yes to Jesus? Maybe it's fear of failure, fear of letting go, or the comfort of the familiar. But if you never let go, you'll never step into the fullness of what God has for you. The sea is wide, and the call of Christ echoes over it still. Every day, he invites you to cast your life into the current of his purpose, to trade your small plans for his eternal mission. There's also something deeply personal about how Jesus calls. Notice how he saw Peter and Andrew. The text says, he saw them. Before he spoke, he saw. Jesus always sees before he calls. He sees your effort, your struggle, your fatigue, your heart. He knows the long nights when you've caught nothing. And he says, "Follow me." Not to shame you, but to show you that in him, failure can become fruitfulness. When Peter later met Jesus again after the resurrection, it was by the same sea, after another night of empty nets. And once again, Jesus filled his boat with fish, a gentle reminder that every calling begins and ends in his grace. Peter's story proves that following Jesus doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. Even when he denied Jesus 3 times, grace called him again. Jesus never revokes his invitation, he renews it. When he says, "Follow me," he's not calling you to a religion of rules, he's calling you to a life of purpose. The gospel began not in temples or courts, but on the shoreline, in the hands of workers among ordinary lives. Because God delights in using the ordinary to reveal the extraordinary. And so the same Jesus who called Peter and Andrew calls us today to leave behind the old patterns, the empty pursuits, the tangled nets, and step into the adventure of faith. He doesn't just want your Sundays, he wants your whole life, your time, your talents, your trust. To follow him means to say, "Lord, my life is yours. Use it however you will." And when you do, something miraculous happens. You begin to see the world differently. The sea of your life becomes your mission field. Every interaction, every conversation, every act of kindness becomes a cast of the net, a way to bring others to the love of Christ. That's what it means to be a fisher of men, to share the hope you've found with others. Not through force or argument, but through love, compassion, and truth. The same Jesus who transformed fishermen into apostles can transform you into his vessel of grace. The story of Peter and Andrew isn't just history, it's invitation. Jesus is still walking by the shorelines of our hearts, calling us to follow. The only question that remains is the same one that echoed across the Sea of Galilee 2,000 years ago. Will you leave your nets? Because the truth is, the cost of following Jesus is everything, but the reward is infinitely greater. You gain purpose instead of emptiness, peace instead of striving, and eternal life instead of fleeting satisfaction. Peter and Andrew didn't know what lay ahead. Storms, persecution, even martyrdom. Yet they said yes. And because they did, the world was never the same. Every great movement of God begins with someone willing to leave the shore. Today, that someone could be you. So when you hear his voice, that quiet whisper saying, "Follow me," don't hesitate. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. Drop the net, step out in faith, and watch how Jesus transforms your life into a story that catches others for his kingdom. Thank you for watching Holy Path Insights. If this message touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, And follow the channel for more inspiring messages about the teachings and life of Jesus Christ. May you always have the courage to follow his call wherever it leads.